Have you ever wondered why some women seem to have a man completely hooked, not just attracted, but utterly obsessed, craving her touch, her attention, her energy like a drug? It's not about looks. It's not about what she wears, and it's definitely not about playing games. It's about understanding something far deeper. If you've ever wanted to be the woman he thinks about late at night, the one he can't stop coming back to, then what you're about to hear will change everything. When most people think about sexual attraction, they tend to focus on the physical, body language, appearance, chemistry in bed. But here's the truth that flips the script. If you want a man to be deeply sexually addicted to you, the real gateway is his emotions. Physical desire might bring a man into the room, but emotional seduction is what makes him stay, crave, and obsess. It creates the kind of addiction that doesn't fade when the lights go out. Men, despite the cultural myth of being purely visual creatures, are deeply emotional beings. They may not always express it openly, but their sexual desire is often entangled with how a woman makes them feel, about themselves, about the moment, and about the connection they share. If you can make a man feel emotionally desired, understood, and safe, you instantly elevate your sexual dynamic to a level that goes beyond just chemistry. You're not just someone he sleeps with, you become someone he needs in his life. Emotional seduction begins with presence. When you're truly engaged with a man, when you listen with intent, when you look at him like he matters, when your energy is fully there in the moment, it sends a powerful signal. It tells him, I see you. That might sound simple, but in a world full of distractions, that kind of attention is rare and intoxicating. When a man feels seen, not just noticed for his looks or status, but really seen, he begins to associate that emotional validation with you. And because the male ego is heavily tied to feeling significant, that feeling becomes magnetic. He starts craving that validation, and in doing so, he starts craving you. Then there's the element of emotional safety. If a man can be vulnerable with you without feeling judged or emasculated, that creates a level of trust that transforms physical intimacy. Think of it like this. Most people have sex. Fewer people truly connect during sex. But when a man feels emotionally safe, the act becomes more than a release. It becomes a space of bonding, exploration, and emotional intimacy. That is what leaves a lasting imprint on him. That's the kind of experience he'll compare every future encounter to. And often, nothing will come close. Another aspect of emotional seduction is the ability to stir a man's imagination. Teasing, flirtation, and a bit of mystery go a long way. When you stimulate a man's mind, when you make him wonder what you're thinking, what you want, or what might happen next, you engage his emotions and his curiosity. This creates tension, anticipation, and excitement, all of which are crucial to sexual addiction. People often talk about chemistry, but chemistry is often the result of emotional contrast. Being playful one moment, intense the next, being affectionate and then suddenly pulling back slightly. It's this dance of emotions that stokes desire far beyond anything purely physical. Ultimately, the deepest sexual addiction comes from a cocktail of feelings: emotional connection, safety, challenge, playfulness, and desire. Physical seduction fades if it's not rooted in something deeper. But when a man's emotional core is stirred, when he feels something he doesn't feel with anyone else, that's when desire turns into obsession. One of the most underestimated elements of sexual attraction is unpredictability. Not chaos, not emotional instability, but a dynamic energy that keeps a man constantly engaged and excited. When you bring an element of unpredictability into your connection with a man, you bypass routine and stimulate a part of his brain that thrives on novelty and challenge. This doesn't mean playing games or being manipulative. It means allowing your complexity, your multidimensionality to shine through. The truth is, most people become too familiar too fast. They fall into patterns. Conversations become repetitive, interactions become expected. Predictability breeds comfort, but too much comfort breeds boredom, and boredom is the death of sexual attraction. Unpredictability works because it creates emotional spikes. The human brain responds intensely to contrast. When a man doesn't know exactly how you'll respond, when you're playful and witty one day, then introspective and deep the next, it keeps his attention locked on you. He can't figure you out, not in a confusing or frustrating way, but in a compelling way. Is drawn to you because you're always revealing a new side of yourself, keeping the emotional landscape of your relationship rich and intriguing. This constant evolution makes him crave your presence because, with you, no 2 days feel exactly the same. This unpredictability is also deeply tied to emotional variety, which is critical in sexual desire. If you're always sweet and accommodating, he may feel comfortable but not turned on. But when you show range, when you're sweet and then assertive, when you challenge him, tease him, flirt with him, and sometimes even surprise him by pulling back, it engages his instincts. It keeps him alert. It keeps him wondering what's next. That state of curiosity and anticipation is addictive because it mimics the same psychological patterns that make people crave thrill, adventure, and reward. Think of how people get addicted to games, to gambling, or even social media. It's because of intermittent reinforcement. Not knowing what you're going to get next creates suspense and anticipation, which heightens emotional engagement. The same principle applies to relationships. If a man always knows what's coming, he subconsciously stops paying attention. Being unpredictable also allows you to stand out. Most women are afraid to step outside the lines. They fall into patterns that feel safe. But when you show that you're not afraid to speak your mind, to disagree, to walk away if something doesn't feel right, you become unforgettable. A man may enjoy someone who's easy to figure out, but he becomes obsessed with someone who challenges him emotionally and mentally. When you blend warmth with unpredictability, when you're affectionate but also independent, when you show interest but still have boundaries, you trigger both his desire and his respect. And when those two emotions collide, it creates a sexual and emotional pull that's nearly impossible to resist. Confidence is magnetic. It's the silent language that speaks before you open your mouth, the aura that surrounds you when you walk into a room. When it comes to creating sexual addiction in a man, confidence isn't just helpful, it's essential. A woman who carries herself with self-assurance naturally becomes more desirable because she projects value. She doesn't need to tell a man she's worth it. And in the realm of sexual attraction, value drives obsession. The more a man perceives you as someone with emotional strength, standards, and independence, the more his desire becomes entwined with the challenge and privilege of being close to you. Confidence doesn't mean being loud or dominant. It's not about being the most talkative, the sexiest dresser, or the most flirtatious. True confidence lies in how you carry yourself when no one is validating you. It's in how you respond to being tested, ignored, or challenged. A woman who remains emotionally grounded, who doesn't chase, who doesn't panic when a man pulls away, who doesn't crumble under pressure, sends a powerful message. She's not auditioning for love, she's not desperate for validation, she already knows she's enough. And that kind of energy makes a man sit up and take notice. What's often misunderstood is that men don't get addicted to women who throw themselves at them. They get addicted to women who choose them. There's a difference. When a man feels that you're with him not because you need him, but because you want him, and that you could walk away at any time if he no longer meets your standards, it flips something in his brain. He stops seeing you as someone he conquered and starts seeing you as someone he has to continuously earn. This dynamic fuels desire because it places you in a position of emotional leadership, and men are naturally drawn to people who challenge them in that way. Confidence also allows you to fully enjoy and own your sexuality without shame or fear. When you're comfortable in your skin, when you know your body and enjoy expressing your desires, you become exponentially more attractive. It's not about how perfect you look. It's about how uninhibited you are when you allow yourself to feel pleasure, to be present, to share moments of real connection. A man doesn't become addicted to perfection, he becomes addicted to authentic passion. And passion can only exist in someone who's secure in herself. What's even more compelling is when your confidence is combined with kindness, warmth, and empathy. When a woman can be both strong and soft, grounded and emotionally available, she becomes a rare blend. Confidence without arrogance, power without coldness. That balance is intoxicating because it makes a man feel emotionally safe, while still feeling like he needs to pursue you. He doesn't feel like he's in control, nor does he feel manipulated. He simply feels captivated by your energy, your self-respect, and the unique way you hold yourself in the world. That's not just attractive, that's addictive. One of the most misunderstood truths about desire is that it doesn't grow when everything is handed over instantly. It thrives in space, in anticipation, in the moments where restraint and mystery are more powerful than immediate gratification. Saying no, or simply not giving in too quickly, is not about playing hard to get. It's about creating contrast. When a man experiences moments of pause, of tension, of delayed intimacy, his brain becomes more engaged. He begins to wonder, to fantasize, to crave. And it is in that craving where sexual addiction begins to take root. Sexual tension is like a tightrope walk between what's available and what's just out of reach. The anticipation before a first kiss is always more electric than the kiss itself. The stolen glances across a room, the accidental touch that lingers just a moment too long, the subtle smile that suggests something more, all of this builds a mental and emotional storm inside a man. He doesn't just want you physically, he starts obsessing over when and how he'll have that next moment with you. When everything is instantly accessible, there's nothing left for the imagination to feed on. But when you hold just enough back, when you show interest but also keep a bit of emotional and physical space, it triggers a psychological pursuit response. He begins to associate you with excitement, with intensity, with desire that doesn't fade quickly because it wasn't satisfied too easily. This isn't about manipulation or withholding affection to punish. It's about allowing the relationship to breathe and allowing desire to build naturally instead of forcing it to ignite through pressure or performance. There's a subtle power in not rushing things. When a man senses that you're not in a hurry, that you're willing to wait until it feels right, it communicates self-worth. You're not afraid of losing him because you're not operating from fear. You're operating from value. You know that your time, your energy, and your body are worth waiting for. And a man who senses that will respect it. And more importantly, he'll want you even more. Men often say they love the chase, but it's not about the cliche of a woman running away. It's about emotional investment being earned. When you say not yet, it invites him to rise to your standards, to stay present, to prove that he's not just in it for the immediate pleasure. It creates a filter. The ones who are just looking for surface-level gratification won't stick around, but the ones who are drawn in, the ones who feel the magnetic pull of your energy even when you aren't physically close, will stay. Because the feeling you give them of longing, of excitement, of emotional elevation is something they can't find easily elsewhere. In those no moments, in the delayed touches, in the spaces between physical intimacy, the emotional and psychological desire intensifies. A man doesn't just want to be with you, he wants to earn the right to be with you. He starts attaching meaning to every interaction, to every glimpse of closeness. And that's when sexual attraction becomes something deeper, something lasting. That's when it stops being about sex and starts being about you. One of the deepest truths about sexual obsession is that it's rarely just about physical gratification. It's about how someone feels in your presence. If you want a man to be sexually addicted to you, you must become the source of his emotional highs. Humans, by nature, seek out what makes them feel alive. When someone consistently gives us a feeling we can't replicate anywhere else, we start craving that person. Not logically, not with control, but viscerally, emotionally, sexually. That craving turns into attachment and eventually into a kind of obsession that is difficult to walk away from. Men may not talk about it openly, but they crave emotional elevation just as much as women do. They want to feel admired, excited, validated, playful, powerful, seen. The woman who makes him feel those things becomes unforgettable, not because of what she says or even how she looks, but because of how she makes him feel about himself. If when he's around you, he feels like the best version of who he is, he will want to be around you more often. And when those emotional highs are wrapped in romantic or sexual tension, they become intensely addictive. This isn't about being overly agreeable or inflating his ego. It's about tapping into those moments where you genuinely uplift him, where your presence energizes him, where your laughter, your wit, your insight, or even your silence creates a meaningful emotional shift. Maybe it's the way you challenge him with intelligence, the way you flirt with a glint in your eye, the way you playfully tease him while still making him feel desired. Or maybe it's in those quieter moments where you sit in deep conversation and reflect his strengths back to him in a way that no one else does. You become the mirror he wants to keep looking into, not because of vanity, but because you reflect something that feels amazing to him. We are all wired to return to what elevates our emotional state. This is how addictions form, whether to substances, experiences, or people. When a man starts to associate you with emotional uplift, laughter, comfort, curiosity, inspiration, sexual energy, he becomes hooked. You're no longer just a person in his life, you're an experience, one that he can't replicate elsewhere. One that doesn't just live in the physical realm, but in his nervous system, his memory, and even his fantasies. Men are often surrounded by people who want something from them: attention, validation, time, energy. The woman who instead gives something emotionally, who gives light, warmth, spontaneity, or intrigue, becomes a sanctuary. And that sanctuary becomes a place he doesn't want to leave. Because even if he walks away, nothing feels quite like it did when he was with you. That is the foundation of true sexual addiction. Not just the chase, not just the passion, but the emotional high he reaches only when he's around you. Once he's tasted it, he will seek it again and again. Not because he has to, but because he needs to. At the core of every man's psychology is a powerful need to feel useful, needed, capable, and important. It's not just about ego, it's about identity. When a man feels like he's your hero, not in some over-the-top dramatic way, but in those small, intimate, everyday moments, he feels emotionally anchored to you. He doesn't just feel desired, he feels relevant, impactful, chosen. And this significance can build a bond so strong that his desire for you transcends the physical. It becomes rooted in emotional and psychological necessity. When you make a man feel like a hero, you're appealing to his deepest masculine wiring. This doesn't mean pretending to be helpless or constantly praising him. It means showing that you see the effort he makes, that you appreciate not just what he gives you, but who he is when he gives it. If you respond with sincere acknowledgement, not performative flattery, but genuine appreciation, you're reinforcing his emotional bond with you. You're showing him that he matters in a way that's unique and personal. This dynamic is incredibly powerful in romantic and sexual relationships because it builds emotional dependence. He begins to associate his own self-worth with how he shows up for you. And when a man sees himself as your protector, your confidant, your emotional anchor, even in small ways, his desire for you goes far beyond physical chemistry. He becomes addicted to the role he plays in your life. He starts needing to show up for you, And the more emotionally significant you make him feel, the more he begins to view you as essential to his own emotional well-being. Many women think that being strong and independent means never showing vulnerability, but the truth is, strategic vulnerability is a form of strength. When you allow a man to see you, to support you emotionally, to step up when you need him, you're not giving away your power, you're deepening his investment. Men fall in love through the act of giving, not receiving. They bond with the person they protect. So when you allow him to be that person, you are inviting him to feel not just wanted, but important. And importance is far more addictive than surface level attraction. Sexually, this dynamic becomes even more intense. When a man feels like he's not just satisfying your body, but also soothing your heart, challenging your mind, and making you feel safe in every dimension, he begins to link his masculinity and sexual identity to you. Every intimate moment becomes more than pleasure. It becomes proof. Proof that he's enough. Proof that he's capable. Proof that he matters. And once that association is built, it's incredibly hard for him to walk away. Because losing you doesn't just mean losing a lover, it means losing a vital part of how he sees himself. This sense of emotional and masculine fulfillment builds a bond that's electric, personal, and deeply rooted. You become his outlet, his home, his excitement, his purpose all at once. And that fusion of identity, sex, and emotion, that's not just attraction, that's addiction. When you understand how to tap into a man's emotional wiring, you unlock a form of connection that goes beyond surface attraction. You become the woman who challenges him, excites him, uplifts him, and makes him feel something no one else does. Sexual addiction doesn't begin in the bedroom, it begins in the mind. Through your confidence, your unpredictability, your emotional depth, and your ability to make him feel like a man in the most profound way, you create an experience he can't find elsewhere. You don't just make him want you, you make him need you. And once that happens, the connection isn't just physical, it's primal, it's unforgettable, and it's yours to own.